Okay. So if you are unfamiliar with Zoom, wondering where the chat box is, it's located on your Zoom toolbar at the bottom of your screen. I also want to point out the mute and camera buttons as well. So all participants were muted upon entry. There will be time to ask questions during the open Q&A session. And so during that time, feel free to unmute yourself, or you can continue just typing your questions in the chat box. We want to interact with everybody on the call today, so if you feel comfortable, please turn on your cameras. So let me introduce your moderators and guest speakers today. I'll begin. My name is Brooke Walsh, and I'm the brand ambassador for Missouri and Arkansas, and a few of those affiliates in the neighboring states of Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, and Tennessee. I also have my colleague Aaron Rogers joining us today. Aaron, do you want to say hello to the group real quick?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Aaron Rogers. I service the states of Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and also a portion of North Florida.
Perfect. Thank you, Aaron. And we also have two speakers from Coldwell Banker Home Office today. Our first speaker is Karen Leonardi. She is our Coldwell Banker Director of Growth. Karen offers consultative services to you, our affiliates, on both the operational and sales side of your brokerage business. Some of her popular areas that she likes to focus on is business planning, P&L review, personnel assessment, creating a recruiting strategy, increasing agent productivity, and conducting a review of your commission plan. Our second speaker is Colleen Nornes. She's our Senior District Director for the Southern Region. And Colleen has an extensive background with Coldwell Banker as an agent and as an office manager on both the affiliate side and Coldwell Banker Realty side. Colleen's favorite part about running her office is the recruiting piece. So Colleen will close us out today and give us her best practices as a successful recruiter. Now we are also very thrilled to have Allison Peru to join us as our panel guest. Allison is an agent, a trainer, and recruiter for Coldwell Banker Trahan Real Estate Group in Lafayette, Louisiana. We will get to hear a little bit more about Allison and her recruiting strategies in just a little bit. So now I will pass the presentation over to Karen Leonardi, who is going to discuss recruiting strategies, implementing systems, and best practices. So okay. Karen, feel free to share your screen.
Okay. Okay, am I up?
You are up and going.
Good. All right, that's a good way to start out. Well, hi everybody, and thank you, Brooke, for the invitation to join you here today. So I'm here to talk about recruiting, but I'm not going to get into scripting and dialogue and overcoming objections, which I think is very common when we talk about recruiting. I'm here to talk more about strategy and process around recruiting. So I did share, your brand ambassadors will have some handouts that I shared, and that does include scripting that you may find helpful. But today I'm going to focus on the process. First, we're going to talk about creating a recruiting strategy. Then we're going to talk about some best practices. And finally, we'll conclude with implementing a system. So I start here because I think a lot of times we just jump into, we know we have to recruit, we know we have to make phone calls, but why are we doing it? Oh, my cat just decided to join the meeting, sorry about that. And I don't think that a lot of times we take a step back to look at think about our strategy and what we're trying to accomplish. So our strategy is about identifying a goal and kind of the roadmap of how we're going to get there. So it's important before you start out to take a step back, analyze your company and your needs, because to know where you're heading, you have to know where you are right now. So you may look at your profitability of your company and question, why are my profits not up? Why are they stagnant? Why are they maybe even going down a little bit? My agents are on target with their sales. Maybe your average sale price is up even, like it is in many parts of the country, but your profitability isn't where you want it to be. So then you dig a little bit deeper and you see that maybe your retained company dollar percentage has dropped. And that may be because your office is primarily consists of agents that are top producers that have been in the business a long time, very tenured, and they're on a high split. So that's going to affect your percentage retained. So then you look at what your strategy is going to be. You need to bring in some people that are maybe that mid, lower, new people that are going to be on a lower split so that you can get that percentage up. Or maybe you're looking at your market share and you start to drill down in your primary market and you see specific neighborhoods or micro markets where there's opportunities there. So then you're going to build your recruiting strategy around targeting agents that actually do business in those markets versus going after the agents that are doing business across town. So I've always found that I have more success when I have an actual defined and targeted goal in place. And then we get into the process, which is going to focus on the path and the tactics. And that's mainly what I'll talk about when I go over my best practices. And then, of course, there's the goal at the end, which is the hire. But just because you hire people, or maybe you achieve that goal of gaining market share or increasing your retained company dollar percentage, you don't stop there. It's constantly revisiting your business and seeing what your future needs are and recasting those goals and starting the process all over again. So again, I think we go into it all the time with this mindset of I have to hire somebody, I have to hire somebody. But really what I like to do is take a step back, because most of the time you are not going to hire somebody on that first phone call, definitely, or at that first appointment. So I think to help yourself, build your confidence, that setting little milestones and shifting your mindset and your intention, don't just focus on the hire, focus on the journey to get there and set your intention really to create the relationships and build rapport. Because what's most important and what's going to make you successful in getting to the hire is when you make that connection, when you build your credibility with that person, and when you become a trusted resource that they can rely on. That's when they're going to feel confident joining your firm. So I have one quick story that I'll tell. It's one of my favorite recruiting stories, and I really wasn't even trying to actively recruit this person, but I had met somebody personally, and we developed a friendship, and she was working for a competitor. She loved her broker, of course. I'd always heard about that. And I never tried to actively recruit her because most of the time I saw her in a social setting. But she would call me all the time and she would ask me for advice. She'd be struggling with a transaction and she couldn't reach her broker, so she'd call me. And then one day, one of the calls was that she was very upset with her broker. And she had been shorted on a commission, and the broker was not helping her and didn't seem too proactive about wanting to go after it. So within 48 hours, I had her in my office. She signed all of her paperwork and she was in her new location. And she's still with that same company, and she's about an $8 million producer consistently. So that was one of those ways that I had just established that relationship. She trusted me. I was a resource for her. So when there was an event with her broker, I was the first one that she was going to call. So I apologize to anybody that just got through homeschooling your children to see the word homework. But it's very important before the appointment to do your homework. And that entails looking up not just their business production, because you've probably already done a little research on that when you were identifying them for your recruiting list. But it's also using social media. I love social media just for the fact that you can get so much intel on somebody. Going to LinkedIn, seeing where they went to school, seeing maybe past careers they had, where they worked. And then, of course, Facebook is good, or Instagram for seeing information about their families or their hobbies and interests. And, we're not trying to stalk anybody, but it just helps when you're starting out that conversation with them, that you have some things that maybe you can go to keep the conversation rolling. So during the appointment, before I get into this, you're probably wondering why I have a frog on my screen. And I wish I could give credit to wherever this came from, but I don't remember where I heard it, but I've used it several times. You know, when you sit down with somebody that's basically a stranger to you, a lot of times it's hard to, or you're nervous about how you're going to start the conversation or anything. And the FROG stands for family, recreation, occupation, and goals. So you start out asking about their family, what are some of the fun activities that they like to do, about their career, because obviously that's why you're there to begin with, and their goals. And it just helps make the conversation go a lot smoother. So you want to actively listen to what they are saying. I mean, the worst thing to do is sit there and check your phone or be looking off into, you know, some other direction, being distracted. So they want you to be paying attention to them, listening to what they're saying, rephrasing what they're saying so that you have clarity, and asking them questions so they can maybe dig a little bit deeper. So you want to mirror them and pay attention to their mannerisms and speech. I tend to sometimes be a little bit loud. So when you sit down with somebody, you don't want to come across as very intense and loud if they're very mild-mannered and soft-spoken. So validating them and making them feel heard and understood. I mean, it's just interjecting phrases that I understand, or that must have been difficult for you. Just something that shows that you're engaged and paying attention to the conversation. Then, of course, you know, if you think about people that you enjoy being around the most, it's usually people that you found common interests with. Maybe you have friends in common with them, acquaintances that you both know, just anywhere where you can make that connection. And then always at the first appointment, you want to set the expectation for the follow-up and what the next steps are going to be. So to me, I always look at the first appointment as kind of just a get to know you. I'm not really pitching the company at that point necessarily. I mean, if there's opportunities to interject, yes, do that. But it's really to get to know them and to listen to what their goals are, what their challenges are, so that when you're at this first meeting, you're setting up your next meeting with the plan to come with a very targeted approach to show them how you are going to help them achieve their goals and overcome any obstacles that they've been facing. So between appointments, of course, send a thank you. You know, make it very personalized. Mention something that you connected with them on, or that they had shared with you. And identify opportunities to share information on tools and programs. So I think this is important because you know, in your second meeting, you may be doing demonstrations and all that on your specific tools that will help their business. But really, like ahead of time, if they can have maybe that consumer experience, if you set them up as if they were a client on a consumer-facing tool, or if they said that they're interested in the luxury market, and we have all these great resources from Global Luxury that you could share with them. So you can kind of drip that in so they actually can have the time to digest it and see it. So sending articles of interest, obviously you want to send articles that are real estate related, promoting Coldwell Banker, promoting maybe some activities that your company's involved with locally, but don't just limit it to real estate. Send them if they shared with you that they like to ski, or you know, have some kind of a hobby, and you come across an article related to that. Just, you know, send it off to them and say, hey, I was thinking of you when I saw this article. Just makes them feel good and connected to you. And then you want to watch their business, you know, look for when they have a new listing or a sale, especially if it's with somebody in your office, congratulate them. Also, if you do tour day still in your office, if they have a new listing, ask them if you can put it on the tour schedule so that your agents can get there. And again, it's just another way to build that rapport, be interested in their business. And it's even better if they're at the house when you come through on tour so that they can interact with your agents and see some of your culture. So it's very important. I mean, we can tell you, we can give you all the scripts. We can tell you to create a strategy. We can look at your business, but if you don't implement a system that works for you, and I say that because I can tell you the system that I used. I know Colleen had a system that I've heard her share before, but her system wouldn't necessarily work for me and vice versa. You have to come up with your own system that you're actually going to follow. And the goal is that even though in the beginning it may be a little bit feel strange, feel uncomfortable, the more that you practice your system and follow it, then the more comfortable you're going to become. And then it just becomes part of your daily and weekly habits. So first, I mentioned mindset in the beginning. It's so important, your mindset and removing any of your limiting beliefs. Recruiting's hard. If it was easy, we wouldn't all be here today. I probably wouldn't have a job today here with Coldwell Banker. It's very difficult and it's scary. So, if you start out thinking, I can't recruit, I'm not good at this, I don't have the time for it, guess what? Everybody can recruit if you put your mind to it. And everybody can make time for recruiting. But you have to go into it thinking of success. If you go in thinking of failure or all the things that could go wrong, then you're just setting yourself up to probably not take any action at all. So creating a more disciplined use of your time. From my past experience, trust me, I know exactly how it is when you walk in the morning and you have your day in your head planned and nothing goes according to plan 99% of the time. It's a very reactive business and there's always fires to be putting out. So you have to structure it and create a very disciplined schedule of when you're going to focus on your recruiting or you're not going to do it. And leading into focus, it's important that you actually focus and plan for all of your recruiting activities and interactions. A lot of people say, oh, I work great under pressure. No, that's not a good way to go into it. You don't want to just go in off the cuff without having a plan in place. So play the percentages. And what this means is it's a numbers game. So you're going to start as you get going. You'll see how many phone calls does it take me to get to an appointment and how many appointments do I need to have to get to a hire. And as you do this more regularly, your conversion rate's going to get better, but it's important to figure that out in the beginning because then that's going to set your activity level for the week. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. You're going to get a lot of no's. There's going to be a lot of rejections. Even, probably when you were starting out in sales, you had no's, you had rejections, you lost out on listing appointments. But you kept at it and you kept going, and the same thing for recruiting. I read one article that said on average you're going to get 5 no's before you get a yes. So you get 1 no doesn't mean you don't ever call that person again. You have to be persistent. And then be accountable. This is another very important part of the process that you have to be accountable for your actions and actually doing the work. And if you can't be self-accountable, then find an accountability partner, somebody that you trust that, they can hold you accountable and that you have to kind of report into every week and say, here's what I did. Because it's a lot harder to tell somebody what you didn't do. And so that forces you to take action. So we always say practice makes perfect. There's no perfection in recruiting. Even the most skilled recruiters can still tell you that they make mistakes. I can tell you there are times that I went to lunch with somebody and afterwards said, oh my gosh, why did I say that? You're not always on your game, but you have to continue to do the activities because again, it's going to create a habit. It's going to become part of your daily and weekly routine. And you'll just be doing it as second nature if you continue to practice and fine-tune your skills all the time. So that's it for the formal presentation. I think, Brooke, do you want to wait for Q&A until later? Or
if anybody has any questions for Karen, feel free to type them in the chat box or unmute yourself. We've got, a few minutes that Karen can answer questions. If not, we can go straight into interviewing Allison. But it looks like we don't have any questions in the chat box, but we'll have plenty of time later on. So no worries. We'll go ahead and go to the next section. So thanks, Karen. Appreciate all your information. So this is the point where I enjoy this type of meeting because we are going to keep our gallery screens on. There's no presenting. It's just going to be a nice little Q&A session with Aaron and Allison. So Aaron's going to start the questioning. And as always, if anybody has any questions, you can type them in the chat box, but we will have a section for Q&A. So that's whenever you can unmute your computers. So Aaron, I'm going to go ahead and pass the torch to you and Allison.
Great, thank you, Brooke. So yes, we do have the pleasure today of being with Allison Peru from Trahan Real Estate Group. Trahan Real Estate Group, they onboarded with us with their respective brokers, Tad and Shah Trahan, of course, back in December. So I've gotten to know them very well over the last couple of months. We couldn't think of anybody better to try and to get their knowledge and pick their brains a little bit on today's call. So Allison, welcome and thank you again. Just take a minute or two and tell everybody what it is that you do at Trahan.
Thank you. Jack of all trades, master of none. No, I am the residential director of sales. I help coach, mentor, and train all of the agents, as well as onboarding and recruiting. And I am still a producing agent. I've
Excellent.
been with Trahan since October of last year, but I've been in real estate for a little over 5 years. So.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes, I know that I've gotten to know you very well, Allison, over these last couple of months, and I know that you're a jack of all trades. You truly do it all. So thank you again. So how about, let's start with, if you could describe your office or your guys' company culture a little bit for us.
Sure. Like you said, it's Chad and Todd Trahan that are the broker owners. Those are brothers. So when we say we have a family culture, we have a family culture. Their wives work here as well. We are very, very family centered. We focus a lot on being supportive and trying to stay positive. Real estate's tough. It's not for, the weak at heart. Deals are going to fall apart. Bad things are going to happen, but we always try to either learn from it and grow instead of focusing on the loss. So we try to keep a very positive environment as a whole.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The times that I've been down to visit you guys, it definitely has that type of feel. And I know that that's the environment that you guys try to definitely pursue and push forward with. So I totally agree with that. How about the top 3 elements of your value proposition?
Oh, I would say for us, coaching and accountability is big. We have found, just doing research in our area, we do have a lot of, we're considered a small brokerage, even though, we are affiliated with Coldwell Banker. There is not a lot of coaching and accountability that happens in this area. So that I enjoy that. So, we definitely key into that. We also offer support staff to our team. So we have a marketing coordinator, we have a transaction coordinator, that will help without additional fees. We can go into that later if need be, but that's definitely, and then, the obvious, the tools and benefits of being affiliated with Coldwell Banker, all of, the tools that we are able to give them to set them up for success going forward. Your CRM, the e-marketing, brand serve, you can kind of plug and play and let your business almost run itself. So you can go out and work, instead of working harder, work smarter.
No, absolutely. I definitely couldn't disagree with that. So when you're out on the recruiting trail, when you're doing what it is that you do, what would you say, what is your sweet spot? What is it, something that you kind of really know that you can get the sell on, something like, do you focus on new licensees? What is it that you would consider a sweet spot when you're on the trail?
Okay, well, I might surprise you with this one because mine's going to be to re-recruit first.
Okay.
Okay, so you always take care of what you have in-house, and then we go outside. We are very big on reward and recognition, taking care of our team that we currently have. Because believe it or not, it's a lot easier to make the warm call because they will give you the people to call. they have done it more often than not. Our agents have said, hey, so-and-so has called, they see what we're doing. And obviously the agents rave because they're happy. So, I mean, it helps you only build, your team, and you're able to handpick. Outside of re-recruiting, I do focus more on 2 to 4 year agents, production between 2 and 6 million. They know what's going on. And I will tap back into we don't have a lot of coaching and accountability. And I've identified which brokerages that is. So I'm able to have those conversations with them, and I know what it looks like on their end. And then in addition to that, if, outside of, 2 to 4 years in re-recruiting, just looking at the trends, either seasoned agents or new agents that have had production in the past. And if you see either inconsistencies or consistent downward slopes, just, having that phone call and saying, how can I help? Not even you want to come here, how can I help? Building a relationship with them up front and just being a resource.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. I think that was a great example of what it is that you really try to focus on when you go about the process. So how about the process itself? So what are the steps that you take? Obviously you said that you try to steer more towards keeping the ones in-house happy, which I think is very important. But when you are on the trail, you are looking, what's the process that you go through?
It depends on, kind of like Karen said earlier, it depends on where they're coming from. If I'm acquainted or not acquainted with them already, if I already know who the agent is and I have a relationship with them, then at that point it's really a warm call. Make a personal connection with them, check in with them, be a resource. Whenever I'm not acquainted with them yet, then at that point it is a phone call that I make initially, and follow up with the email. Then just, again, try to be a resource to them. Make it more about them, not about us. Let them ask questions about us. It's not, I don't want to be, I'm not the type that will shout from the rooftops about how great we are. They'll see that when they come here. It'll speak.
Love that. I love that. Yeah, I think that's awesome. So again, I know you pretty well. So I know that you're an active agent, right? You sell. I know you're constantly busy. So how do you manage your time between, selling, but also acting as the, recruiter and trainer for you guys?
Basically I have to know my goal and to execute on both ends. I have to know my goals as far as, production wise, and then know my goals as far as recruiting and the business is concerned. Time block. I have to time block. That's my lifesaver. If I show you my calendar, it's just a bunch of little blocks all the way throughout the whole day into, 8, 9 o'clock at night, so that I stay on target. Because some things can't be moved, some things can, time is of the essence. Sure. In my business. So my goal is to have at least 2 appointments per week. And in the last, when did we come on? December? So 6 months. Mm-hmm. We've been able to bring on 8 agents.
Wow.
So, and keeping that goal. So, thanks, Colleen. It's been an adventure, but at the same time, it's fun to watch the team grow,
Yeah, absolutely. I think the job that you've done, or that you guys done, has been, phenomenal. Just being 6 months into it, like you guys are, having to learn the systems yourself. So the way that you go about your business every day, and the way that the brothers run the company on a day-to-day basis, I think has a lot to do with your guys' success. So we greatly appreciate you coming on today, Allison, and sharing some insight with us. We do welcome questions for Allison. You can ask them live if you'd like to unmute now, but you can also add them into the chat. We are monitoring. But we'll take the next 30 seconds to a minute maybe and see if anybody has something for you, Allison. But thank you again. We greatly appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
We do have some great comments. One from Bob Christian. He says, "Yay, Allison. The effort to recruit those already with you is an essential foundation to have before you build external recruiting pipeline." So
I agree 100%. Yep.
Donna Brock commented, "Know your sweet spot," and sounds like you do for sure. And then Bob also, he's our resident commenter. He says, another great tip, meet them where they are at. Eventually, the opportunity will present itself to you. He did ask, though, do you have a favorite opening line for getting a potential recruit's attention on the phone?
I think initially, majority of the time, it's always, how are you? Let them talk about themselves. They will tell you their pain points. They will tell you their wins. They'll tell you their losses. They tell you everything. You just let them talk. Allow them to drive, and you follow their lead.
Great. Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's great. I'm not seeing any more questions here, Brooke, and I haven't seen anybody unmute. But again, you guys, Brooke and I are here. We can translate any type of conversation if you guys want to go outside the meeting. But Brooke, with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Perfect. As always, feel free to type in your questions in the chat box. But right now, we are going to pass it over to Colleen to give us some final thoughts and share her best practices. So I am going to share my screen again.
Well, hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. This was super excited because I believe you are the heartbeat of America. You know, recruiting for some of you, just 1 or 2 agents for the year can totally move the needle, you know, and that can have a huge impact for you. And I know it's a lot of hard work because you're wearing many, many hats. So my hat is off to you. All right, let's go ahead and hit the first slide. So first and foremost, because I know you are so busy and wearing all those hats, you have got to time block. You know, it was Target, do your research, pick up the phone, and just be you. You know, I was always very, what you see is what you get. No dog and pony show. And, but time blocking is so critical. And I used to put a sign on my door and it would either say, I'm prospecting, are you? Or I would also put, currently building our team, who should I call? And then I would also add a little sticky note and give some prizes if it resulted in a great meeting, you know. But I was very selective in who I brought into our office, you know, no diva, no drama. We were one big family, you know, much like Allison was talking about. All right, next slide. So when you're talking about targeting, you know, who do you want in your office? Do you want a top agent? Do you want mid-level, 0 to minimal production, or brand spanking new? And I actually did a little bit of each, you know. I wanted a good mix. I felt that even the newbies, I could take and mold and sculpt them to be the exact agent that I wanted, you know. Doing your research, like Karen was talking about, I would go on Facebook, I would go on LinkedIn, their website, I would look at their profile, I would look at their MLS listings. I wanted to see what their descriptions were, you know, were they invested? And, you know, that's all of that stuff in that mix just tells you a little bit about that person. And so then when you pick up the phone and you're talking to them, you can associate with them. I would, you know, what pets did they have? What were their kids into? What were they into? Their hobbies. If they're going out and drinking wine, you know, I'd somehow bring that into the conversation. If I got a voicemail, I would leave them a message. I would also follow up with a text or even a video. I did a lot of video because sometimes, you know, they didn't know who I was. And so I wanted them to be able to put a face to a name. Most of my recruiting was organic, meaning a lot of my agents, I wanted them promoting our culture and coming to me and saying, oh, I met this great agent, you've got to give them a call. So that was the organic. But then I also was not afraid to pick up the phone and just cold call. That's, you know, what it essentially was. If they answer, use your intel. Pay attention to their social signals that you've, you know, seen on their social media, what's important to them, and make it about them. And that's how you connect. The first call, you know, was just literally to get the appointment. you know, and maybe I would offer a little snippet of what my office offered, what Coldwell Banker offered. And, you know, and it's, you're not always going to get that, you know, oh, sure, I'll meet you on the first call. It took several, you know, it was a process. I looked at it as a sport, in all honesty. I would always ask for their personal email address. And then I would, you know, they say, yes, I'll meet you. I would log the appointment in, you know, my calendar, and then I would make sure to send them an invite. I would email them testimonials. I was huge on testimonials. You know that it's great to get that testimonial from your client, saying what an amazing job you did. It's the same way. So I would ask my agents, my admin staff, to give me feedback on, you know, how is our admin? How's our office culture? How's my management style? How's Coldwell Banker overall? You know, tell me what you love about our office. And so I created a lot of my recruiting pieces based on my agents' testimonials. That went a huge way. You know, and then also texting is much more effective sometimes. And so I put a little snippet. You'll see it's called Groups, Group Text. It's an app that I used. It allows you to set up groups and you can do mass text messages. And I had it organized to where I would do top producers, mid-level, just like I said, you know, the 0 to minimum production and the newbies. And so I was able to send mass text messages, do videos, and text those to them as well. Now, one thing to note on this text or on this app, if it's for iPhone, if you are using it, you want to turn your iMessaging off, because anybody that has an Android phone would not receive that text. So just a footnote in case any of you are thinking of getting that app. All right, next slide. Scripts, you know, it's just like a listing presentation. You go on these listing presentations, you're basically saying the same stuff over and over again. That's a script, you know. And so I had, and I had done something for iProspect, and I dug out my old little cards that I had, and I would keep these on my desk just to remind me of, you know, the questions that I like to ask, you know. And one of my favorite ones, I would look at their production and I say, I'm reaching out to agents who have been in the business a little while, you know, and are you looking to increase your business? You know, I'd love to help you do that. I've had a lot of success in coaching agents to greater production and willing to invest in you. And that was one of my favorite lines was, you know, I'm willing to invest in you, because not many people say that. And you truly are, with your time, your efforts, your tools that you're providing, all of that. It is an investment. You know, if your agent has a great cross sale with another agent after it closes, I would always give them a call, you know, and say, hey, Susan's, you know, I just want to thank you. Susan said it was such an amazing transaction. Thank you so much. You know, I think you'd be a great fit for our office. Let's get together for lunch, you know. All right, next slide. So these are a couple of the things that I had on my note cards, my little scripts. We all want to be affiliated with success, and that's Coldwell Banker. Raise your volume, and then splits don't matter. If you were the manager in your office, and this was my favorite question, I usually ask this first. If you were the manager of your office, what 3 things would you change? And then that really steered my conversation, you know, because I could always overcome those objections, you know, and the grass was greener on my side. So another one in the fall, I would say it's November. You could be giving thanks that you're associated with Coldwell Banker. I don't recruit, I search for talent. I noticed your business has changed. I'd love to meet to discuss how we can get your business back on track. I keep seeing your listings driving through Providence Plantation or Raintree. You know, let's meet for lunch. I'd like to see those say Coldwell Banker. If the agent is currently at a local company, I would emphasize, you know, our global presence. We need to talk about, you know, being fed leads. You know, they always ask, oh, are you going to be feeding me? You know, am I going to get leads? Well, are you comfortable having, you know, your rent and mortgage depend on someone else, you know, giving them leads? Let them know that you can coach them. You know, I want to grow their business and not be dependent on someone else, which is another reason when I would look at producing agents, I would look and see, are they a corporate relocation agent? Because, you know, I didn't want somebody that was being fed leads. So, all right, I want the hungry. Next slide. So many recruiters use the line, I just want to get together for coffee. I never used that line. I always wanted to sound different. A lot of times I would just say, let's cut to the chase. This is a recruiting call. You know, I've researched you online. I've heard a lot about you. You're just an overall great agent. You genuinely care. And I think you'd be a great fit for our office. You know, can I treat you to lunch or some wine and appetizers? I mean, you know, a girl's got to eat, right? And then I would also sometimes extend the invite to their spouse, you know, because spouses are an important part of the decision making, I think, sometimes. So I would also extend that invitation. All right, next slide. Things to note. So create a master recruiting packet. You know, I always had at least 10 copies of this that was stuck in my car. I always had a couple in my, you know, my book of life bag, because I always wanted to be prepared. If I was at an open house, a broker open, a networking event, whatever. Make sure that you have a written transition plan that details the transition, you know, what it would look like. Because I can tell you, when I was an agent coming over from a large mom and pop operation, I came over, I had 32 listings. It was crazy. And the transition process was not that smooth. So I wanted to make sure that, you know, in my office for onboarding, I would order their cards ahead of time, have them proof them. I'd have their signs ordered. And I would have, it was a little, I called it a commitment letter that was, you know, drawn up just to have something that said, yes, I'm committed. You know, I want to be Coldwell Banker. Following up with the recruit, don't give up. Persistence pays off. You know, following up is huge. And there's a lot of things that you can be sending out. We have the CB Wealth Builder series. You can be sending those invites out. Anybody can come to those. The Agent VIP. If you don't know about the Agent VIPs that are going on, it's amazing. It's the brand talking to, you know, telling them, promoting exactly what Coldwell Banker offers them. You know, let us help. So you can reach out to your brand ambassador, and they can tell you how you can sign up. You can also go to CB Exchange and type in Agent VIP, you know. The Fair Housing Pledge, that would be a great thing to send out. Facebook classes, contract updates, any MLS news that's relevant, anything that comes out of NAR, office event invites. You're having a party, you're having something, invite them to it, you know, and then do a follow-up of the videos and pictures from it. That goes a long way. So the follow-up is definitely key. You have to make sure that your current profile online has all the hot buttons, because if you think they're not going to Google you, you are wrong. So some of the hot buttons that I like to have in mind were testimonials for my agents, in-office training and coaching, that was huge. CBU online training, utilize that. Again, you're wearing all those many hats, so let us help you. Go on to CB University, and there's a ton of classes. The AMP class for new agents is amazing, and there's so much more, you know. Global exposure, partnership, that was a big word that I like to use. Global luxury, your management style, admin support is huge. And of course, office culture, pure awesomeness. You know, and the one thing that I did was my office was called the Arboretum office. And so I shortened it, and we were known as Arbo. And so everywhere, if you go online and you search hashtag Arbo Rocks, it's huge. It went viral because my agents were proud, you know, they were proud of who they were associated with. And so I had bumper stickers made, I had bracelets made, just all kinds of stuff. And that's what really helped that organic recruiting. All right, next slide. So where do you find them? Now there is going to be a handout that you can get. and it's going to be one of these. This is actually from Peter Sobak, who has just really a lot of great tips. And Brooke will be sending that out. You'll also be getting the slides. Your brand ambassadors can get these for you. But so where do you find them? At your next sales meeting, ask your agents. I would tell them, okay, if you had your choice to work with any agent that's not a Coldwell Banker agent, write their name down. And they would bring that at sales meeting. And I would call them, you know. I only want great people in our office. That was the mentality that I had. Hold a real estate test prep class in your conference room to help those newbies, you know, ace their licensing test. I did a lot of career nights. Ask the agents in your office what market area is underserved so you can reach out to the prospective agents that are in that market. Host a seminar with a speaker, someone from your local board, an inspector. I used to do free continuing education with one of the home inspectors that, you know, we had a great relationship with. I've had attorneys, appraisers, business coaches, anybody with a great relationship, vendors, and recruit those, you know, bring the recruits over to the seminars. I also did a panel every once in a while, a mastermind, and I would invite top agents from other companies, and I in no way promoted my office. It was not a recruiting thing, but it was subliminal, I feel, you know. And that actually, I think I did about 4 of those, and I probably recruited about 5 agents from those. I also hosted a tour of Charlotte field trip for my agents. And because you'd be surprised at how many people don't know a whole lot about your city or about your town. And so we would have literally 4 cars. I would be in my SUV, I'd have agents in my car, and then there'd be a little trail of trucks and cars. I'd Bluetooth in so they could all hear me. And we would tour the city, and I would show them how to give a proper tour of our city, what to point out, talk about the history and whatnot. I would always invite recruits to that. And that was easy peasy because my agents would do all the promoting for me. They'd talk about my management style. They'd talk about our office. They'd talk about Coldwell Banker, you know, so that really went a long way. And then there's the old, I want you back. You know, there were some agents that had left Coldwell Banker, and this was prior to me taking over the office. And I asked my agents, you know, who would you want back? And they gave me a list, and I called them, you know. And then I had a couple of agents that thought the grass was greener on the other side. I stayed in touch with them, you know, and 2 of them came back. So, you know, it pays off to stay in touch with those folks that, you know, that do leave. All right, next slide. So social media advertising. I did a lot on social media. Some of the buzzwords that I would do, I would say looking for desire, motivation, confidence, passion, drive, and tenacity. I would do the Meet the Spouse event to set the expectations of what it's like to be an agent. Testimonials, that was huge. I would create a little video of the testimonials in Canva. Canva's a great, it's kind of like a hip and trendy version of Publisher, and it's free, and that's canva.com. Talent attraction versus recruiting, that was a buzzword that I used to like to use as well. So I know I went very, very fast, but you know, the one thing that I will say is read your updates from your brand ambassadors, because there's always something new that's rolling out, and some tool or seminar, something that can help you, that you can, you know, pass along to your agents. Also, if there's something that you want to focus on, whether it be, you know, recruiting or learning the tools, let your brand ambassador know, because again, it's our job. We want to help you. We're there to support you, and we can put more of an emphasis, you know, on something like that. And you know, just let us know what your primary focus is. So don't be afraid to reach out to us. Are there any questions? I know I talked a mile a minute.
So Colleen, just checking the chat here. There's no questions, but Donna actually made a pretty good point in the chat box. She says, if a productive agent waits to move over until his or her business is slow, that will rarely ever happen. Having that written transition plan can provide the peace of mind to make the move.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think every top producer that I recruited, they were very impressed, you know, with seeing the plan and like, oh wow, you've thought of everything. Oh yes, I have, you know, and especially, you know, and I had probably 3 different types of recruiting plans, one for, you know, certain levels. I had a whole nother one for global luxury agents, you know, but yeah, definitely have a plan.
And if I could, Allison, I would like to ask you a question real quick, just kind of reverting back to the conversation that we had earlier. So due to the, you know, COVID-19, the things that are just happening in the world right now, has that kind of changed the way that you're going about recruiting over these last couple of months, or, you know, has it affected it much? And has anything really changed in regards to how you go about that trail?
Honestly, it's almost made it easier.
Wow. Okay.
Everybody's they're at home. Zoom. I mean, during COVID, we had 3 join.
Okay.
And we used the tools that you guys would send with the agent training. The monthly calendar was an easy icebreaker. I mean, that's a slam dunk because not a lot of other brokerages do that, much less invite, you know, other agents into it. So that was easy for them to, identify that support's there, the training's there. One quick little glimpse into what, you know, CB had to offer. That was an easy icebreaker for me.
Yeah, just due to the, you know, unprecedented times really that we're in right now. I thought that would have been an interesting topic nonetheless, how recruiting's going today, but it sounds like for you guys it's going pretty well. So glad to hear that.
Maybe. I don't know. We got lucky, but everything's been going great. I just stayed in contact with the ones that I already had a relationship with. And I mean, like I said, y'all handed us a slam dunk whenever, you know, you allowed everybody in as far as the training's concerned. So gave me a reason to follow up and say, hey, what classes did you take? What did you like most about it? You know, continue that conversation with them.
Got it. Thank you, Allison. That's great.
I can tell you that, so I had, when COVID first, it's like the first month of when it hit, the manager who took over my office called me and we had a conversation. And she's like, how am I supposed to recruit in this? I can't take anybody out to lunch. And I said, sure you can. You know, first of all, you're doing all these great, amazing things for your agents, doing all these videos and training and doing these Teams events and Zoom and whatnot. And you're having, you know, virtual happy hour and everything. Invite those agents that you've been trying to recruit to those as well. Give them all your COVID, you know, information and whatnot. And then you can still take them out to lunch, order Uber Eats, have it delivered to their house. I said, do this, try it for, you know, the 10 people that you're, you know, trying to court right now, and do the Uber Eats and just try it. And then there was one agent that was a global luxury agent that she was trying to woo. I said, okay, for that one, do Uber Eats and also send over a bottle of champagne. And so out of those 10 agents, 4 of them affiliated within about 3 weeks of the Uber Eats. And it was a whole process of what she went through. But I said, this is the time, you know, this is, like Allison said, it's almost easier now because it's virtual, you know? So yeah, don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone.
Right.
Perfect. Well, we are just about out of time, but I wanted to thank all of our speakers, Karen, Colleen, and Allison, for joining, and for all of you joining our call today. If you feel that you would benefit from some consulting services from Karen Leonardi, just reach out to your brand ambassador and they will start the communication process. But all your brand ambassadors will have the materials talked about during this meeting, so just reach out to them. So Appreciate everyone joining, and you have a great rest of your afternoon. Bye. Thank you.
Look
Bye,
at Bruce is
everyone.
clapping. Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.